Welcome to the Pun Show. We got fun with names. Like Macklen McLoogie, I'm your host. I don't believe in the band Guns N' Roses, just in band guns. Roses are red, violence makes me blue, the truth is sweet, the NRA is a terrorist organization promoting white supremacy. Tomorrow's Monday, so today must be Pun Day, June 28th. Boy, Trump's rally last weekend was such a disaster, he's now sending FEMA in to clean up the mess. But it was so underattended, there's no mess to clean. You're doing a hell of a job, Whitey. Call me a Girl Scout because I just made a brownie reference. And if you can't keep up, at least tag along. Now I'm going to teach you a thing or two with an explanation. The noose found in Bubba Wallace's garage stall, whether intended for him or not, is horrifying imagery that some people still want to discount or discredit. I'm looking forward to the day, Tona, when race fans aren't racists. And when no matter what Kinsglen they believe, they poke a no that the Martins ills of society can't be eradicated by letting the rich men get richer and the Eldora get poorer. Sorry to go off track there with an economic metaphor to discuss race. But pretending we're not part of the problem, that sort of hubris will be our undoing, Darlington. Here it is, right on time, your pun of the day. New allegations against Mel Gibson have surfaced in the same week that we learned about a Chicken Run sequel coming to Netflix. What a coincidence! I know if I saw an anti-Semite coming my way, I'd want him to stop motion. Here to discuss defunding the police, it's actor and teaching artist Robert Paterno.
For me, it started with asking the question, like, what are the police for? What do the police do? And what do we need them for? Why do we have them? And then thinking about, like, what are we actually defunding? Are we defunding something that we need and is vital or not? Like, starting there. But it has to, I think you have to dig into what a person's conception and idea of who the police are and what their purpose is in order to start the conversation. At least that's where it started for me. I work for a nonprofit called the Unusual Suspects Theater Company, which was founded after the '92 riots. Unusual Suspects goes into underserved communities, and I work there as a teaching artist, and we do it's all theater-based programming. So we help participants write their own plays and then perform their own plays. We're in schools, we're in co-curricular programs, extracurricular programs, intergenerational programs in communities, and also we work with incarcerated youth, right? So that was my first contact, was with like my first real engagement with people who are caught up in the system of mass incarceration. And I had been reluctant for a long time. I've worked for that company since 2013, and I did not take, they call them camps, they're not camps, but they call them camps for these incarcerated youth. And I had refused camp assignments for like the first 3 or 4 years because I had all these preconceived notions. I think I was scared. I was like, I don't know how to communicate with you. Like, I don't know how to work with incarcerated youth. Like what do I know about them? Like, how can I help them? I can't be a service to this group because I don't understand them. And then I substituted a couple times for some other teachers. And then finally, like, I finally had to like own up to myself. And I was scared for no reason, right? I was creating this own barrier. And so my first campsite was in 2018. And man, I realized like I had so many of these just like uninterrogated biases about and perceptions about what about a person who is incarcerated is, like what their life is and how they got there. And like they're just like every other participant who's just gotten a series of different terrible breaks, that was like kind of leading me to this point of like a really firm stance on defunding the police, because my experience with folks who are part of this system is that, and especially now more living here in LA and just knowing people and their experiences with police, it's, you know, I see very little evidence of police protecting and serving people in communities versus protecting capital and property. There is an argument to be made for, you know, we continue to pile on to police responsibilities, all these, you know, or pile onto them all these responsibilities that they're not equipped to handle, right? On top of like the lack of, you know, like whatever, you know, training to just address like the existing issues, you know, like, you know, I ask people like, what do you need someone with a gun to show up to help you to do? Like,
And I think it's because we assume we need the police, so we accept the baggage that comes with that rather than having the guts to rethink what policing could or should be.
It's madness to me to like this person with a live firearm, like their first task is going to be to de-escalate.
So what is defunding the police to you?
It starts with, you know, that conversation about like, what are police for, and like reimagining what community care looks like. You know, Alex Vitale, who wrote The End of Policing, I heard him in an interview refer to police as violence workers, because that is what they are trained to do, right? And that's that, you know, I think of that as like a neutral statement, right? It is just a fact. They're trained violence workers, like that is what they are trained to do, right? For good or ill, like however they apply it in the moment is a different conversation, but like they are capable of that. And they are licensed to commit violence. They are state sanctioned to take a life if they feel that is necessary, right? So when we're talking about care and community, like what does a violence worker, what does someone trained in violence, what are they equipped or what are they necessary for in addressing the things in your community that you need? So then you have to think about like, what does my community need?
I think a lot of people's knee jerk is to say, but there's always going to be crime, so we need the police, we need these violence workers to be there to stop crime. But that's not taking a thoughtful look at what your community needs. Because sure, is there crime? Yeah. But is that the bulk of what your community is? No, the bulk of your community, 99% of your community is daily life. It's work, it's housing, it's health, it's relationships, it's transportation. So to put this emphasis on crime is like making your household budget predominantly Netflix when that should be a sliver of what you spend your money on.
So I shouldn't have 20 Netflix accounts?
Yeah, no, this is an intervention for you, Robert, to please diversify your streaming.
No, but it's like they're all curated. Like, also, you know, it is statistically and empirically and anecdotally true that police are the causers of harm in communities. Right? Whether it's through actual violence or stop and frisk or vertical policing or broken windows or pretextual stops of drivers, predominantly black and brown drivers, like these fishing trips, like, you know, your taillight's out, now we're going to look for drugs, right? So like not like they're creators of trauma, right? However that trauma manifests, right? Whether it's like emotional or physical or whatever, usually both. So like that's part of the conversation, right? Like we have to, you know, like we're always assuming best intentions from a system that is not, there's a lot of evidence proving that that is not its purpose. Power has no incentive to reform itself from within. right? Structures of power, people in those structures, people who benefit from those structures. There's zero incentive because it means either relinquishing or sharing power, right? And why would you do that? Why would power give up power? It doesn't, like if you're on the other side of it, it doesn't make sense. I think another big part of this conversation um, abundancy versus scarcity mindset, right? Like, so if we're always thinking of like resources are scarce, I have to make sure that I have the most of whatever is available.
Mm.
Then we get trapped into these oppressive systems of, like they say you can't have capitalism without racism, right? Because it's meant to, capitalism is meant to, it's money, 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 right? How can we get the most for the least? And whatever the least is it resources? Is it, those resources being material resources, human resources? Regardless of, we're not thinking about, capitalism isn't thinking about the cost to the worker. It's thinking about the cost to to those in power, right? Yeah. So if there's a cost to the worker, that's absolutely at the bottom of the priority list, right? Because as long as if it's plus in the ledger, if it's black in the ledger, ironically, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The only black that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, is in the fucking accounting ledger.
Well, that about does it for our show today. We're back tomorrow with an all-new episode. In the meantime, please check out the Unusual Suspects Theater Company and give generously. I'm Macklen MacLoogie, and since Trump yet again used a racist term to describe the coronavirus, I'll use a racist term to describe him. Republican.